The night was quiet. The desert stretched endlessly, cold and still, under a dark blue sky scattered with stars. Ethan Hale, a human surveyor working for the Outer Colony Corps, leaned against his rover. He had been mapping the sands of Epsilon 9 for weeks, nothing but silence, dust, and echoes of the wind. He looked up at the stars often, wondering if humanity was truly alone. Tonight he got his answer. It started as a streak of silver across the horizon. At first, beautiful, like a shooting star. But it moved wrong. It wasn't falling, it was steering. The streak split into two lines of light, twisting and shaking violently. A second later, the sky exploded in blue fire. Ethan's visor darkened automatically as the shockwave hit. The sand rippled like water and the blast rolled through the desert. His rover's alarm screamed, "Unidentified object incoming!" He jumped into the cockpit and scanned the radar. The object was descending fast, leaving behind fragments of glowing debris. It wasn't a meteor. Its energy signature was artificial. Something or someone was inside. Then the AI system on his rover spoke in a calm, synthetic voice. Life form detected. Unknown genome. Ethan froze. Life form? Out here? Curiosity won over fear. He started the engine and drove toward the crash site. The sandstorm that followed the impact was brutal, but he pushed through it. The night sky above him was still glowing faintly blue, like an open wound in space. After 20 minutes, he saw it. The crash site. A deep crater burned into the desert floor. Inside it, half buried in molten glass, was a sleek black craft shaped like a tier of metal. It hummed softly as if still alive. Strange blue symbols pulsed across its hull, shifting like they were written in liquid light. Ethan climbed down carefully, his boots sinking into the hot sand. The air smelled of ozone and burnt stone. He raised his scanner. It flickered wildly. Unable to read anything, then he saw a movement. Something, or someone, was crawling out from the wreckage. It was a figure, small and fragile-looking, covered in a thin silver suit that shimmered with each step. The helmet cracked open with a hiss, releasing a soft mist. And then he saw her face. She looked almost human. Her skin had a faint metallic glow, and her eyes were a deep violet, unlike any human's. She blinked slowly, disoriented, and looked directly at Ethan. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The desert was silent except for the faint hum from the broken craft. Then she whispered something, soft, melodic, in a language he didn't recognize. Ethan raised his hands, showing he meant no harm. "It's okay." "You're safe," he said gently. Her gaze drifted to his chest, then his face. Confusion filled her eyes. Finally, she asked, her accent strange but understandable. "You're human?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah, who are you?" She looked down at herself as if she wasn't sure. Then she said, almost in a whisper, "I don't know." Before Ethan could reply, his rover's AI broke in. "Warning, radiation levels increasing. Power source unstable." Ethan looked back at the wreck. The blue symbols on the ship were fading, replaced by red flashes. "Whatever powered that craft was breaking down. Come on! We have to move!" he shouted. The alien girl hesitated, looking back at the wreck like she didn't want to leave it. Then, as another blast of energy cracked through the air, she stumbled forward and took his hand. Her touch was warm, too warm. Like holding a living flame, they ran through the sandstorm together, heading toward the rover. Behind them, the crashed ship pulsed with energy. Ethan shoved her inside, sealing the doors just as a shockwave erupted. The explosion lit up the desert like dawn. When the light faded, everything went quiet again. Inside the rover, the girl was staring out the window, trembling. Ethan looked at her, trying to make sense of what just happened. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She didn't answer. She was staring at her reflection in the glass, studying her own face like it was unfamiliar. Then slowly, she touched her chest. Right where a heartbeat should be, Ethan frowned. "Are you okay?" She looked at him, her expression strangely calm. "2 heartbeats," she whispered. "But one feels wrong." Ethan blinked. "2 hearts?" She tilted her head as if confused by his confusion. "Don't you have 3? She asked softly. Ethan stared at her, speechless. "A third what?" he said. But before she could answer, the rover lights flickered. The AI's voice came back, cold and uncertain. Warning! Unknown organism inside. Energy levels rising. The girl looked at Ethan with wide violet eyes. They'll come, she said quietly. They always do. Who will? He asked. She turned back toward the burning wreck in the distance. The blue flames were fading, but in the darkness above, a faint light blinked. Another ship descending. Her voice trembled now. The ones who built me? Ethan followed her gaze to the sky. And for the first time in his life, he realized humanity might not be the only species that built machines to look like themselves. The desert was quiet again, but the silence felt strange now, like the world was holding its breath. Ethan's rover hummed softly as it drove through the night, heading back toward the outpost. The alien girl sat beside him, wrapped in a metallic emergency blanket, staring out the window. Her eyes, violet and faintly glowing, reflected every star they passed. She hadn't spoken much since the crash. She didn't even flinch when thunder rumbled far away. She just watched the sky like she was waiting for something or someone to follow. Ethan glanced at her. You said they'll come, he said carefully. Who's coming? She turned to him slowly, her voice quiet but clear. The ones who made me? They don't like it when one of us escapes. Ethan frowned. One of you? So there are more? Her expression didn't change. Billions. The rover hit a bump, jolting slightly. Ethan almost missed the word she had said. Billions. Billions, he repeated. You mean your kind? Your species? She shook her head, and for the first time, he saw something in her eyes. Sadness. Not a species. A design. Ethan felt a chill crawl up his spine. He wanted to ask more, but his rover's comms crackled suddenly. A faint voice from base control came through. Surveyor Hale, your vitals are erratic. Are you alone out there? Ethan hesitated before answering. Negative, I found a survivor. Sending bioscans soon. He looked at the girl. Do you have a name? She seemed to think for a long time. They called me Unit 3 Delta, she said finally. But you can call me whatever humans call lost things. Ethan smiled faintly. How about Mira? The alien girl blinked, testing the word. Mira, she repeated softly. It sounds gentle. When they reached the outpost, Ethan guided her inside carefully. The building was small, built from sand-hardened alloy. A few drones floated near the ceiling, scanning automatically. The moment Mira stepped through the door, the drones froze mid-air. Their lights flickered red. Warning, said the system voice. Unknown entity detected. Quarantine protocols engaged. Panels slid shut automatically. Ethan swore under his breath. Ignore that, he said quickly, trying to override the alert. But the scanners kept flashing, confused by Mira's presence. He turned toward her. Don't worry, it's just a system check. But Mira wasn't afraid. She looked around the room curiously, touching the wall as if feeling its heartbeat. Her fingertips left faint trails of blue light. You built this, she murmured. Humans always build cages first. Ethan didn't know what to say. He started the med scanner anyway, trying to make sense of her biology. The holographic display lit up with her silhouette, a body almost human but not quite. Her skeletal structure shifted constantly, like liquid metal wrapped in skin. 3 distinct energy signatures pulsed inside her chest. 2 like human hearts, and a third, smaller one, pulsing irregularly. The AI announced, Warning! Biological inconsistency! Multiple cores detected, Ethan frowned. Cores? Mira glanced at the screen. That one, she said, pointing to the smallest pulse. That's not supposed to exist. What is it? Her voice turned cold. A mistake. Ethan leaned closer to the monitor. The third pulse was unlike anything in human science. Its energy fluctuated like it was half alive, half mechanical. It almost looked afraid. Mira touched the glass gently. The third pulse stabilized for a second, as if responding to her touch. Then she looked at Ethan. It's growing stronger because of you. He blinked. Me? Why? Her violet eyes locked with his. Because you're human. And that part of me remembers. Ethan felt his heart race. Remembers what? She smiled faintly, but there was no warmth in it. The first time we were one of you. Before Ethan could speak, the lights flickered. The outpost trembled slightly. The radar on the wall began to beep, 3 signals approaching fast from the upper atmosphere. Mira's expression darkened instantly. "They found us." Ethan checked the radar. "Are they your people?" She shook her head. "Not people, hunters." The hum outside grew louder, deep and mechanical, like thunder from the sky. Ethan grabbed his plasma rifle. "Then we need to hide." Mira looked at the weapon curiously. "You still think weapons will help?" He ignored the comment. "Do you have any idea how to stop them?" She looked at him for a long moment and then said softly, "Yes, but it will hurt you." Before he could ask what she meant, the sky outside exploded again with blue fire. 3 ships appeared, descending through the clouds like metal predators. Mira's eyes began to glow brighter, and the air around her shimmered. The temperature in the room rose sharply. Ethan took a step back, his visor fogging up. "What are you doing?" he shouted. Her voice echoed strangely, layered, almost human, almost machine. "If they reach this place, they'll erase everything. I can't let that happen." Her skin cracked faintly with lines of light. Ethan saw something move beneath it. Circuits, veins of living metal. "Mira, stop!" She turned to him, her expression calm. "You wanted to know what I am," she said softly. "You'll understand soon." And then she stepped outside into the rising storm of light as the hunters' ships descended toward the desert. Ethan could only watch through the glass as Mira lifted her hands, and the sky itself began to change color. The desert sky burned again, this time brighter than before. Blue fire cracked across the clouds and thunder rolled like a living heartbeat. Ethan stood at the window, frozen. Outside, Mira was standing alone in the sand, her silver hair lifting in the electric wind. The 3 alien ships hovered above her, forming a perfect triangle, their engines humming with deadly precision. "Mira!" Ethan shouted into the comms. "Get back inside!" She didn't move. Her eyes glowed brighter, violet bleeding into white. The air rippled around her like heat above metal. And then the first ship fired. A beam of energy sliced through the night, hitting her directly. Ethan flinched, expecting her to vanish in the explosion. But instead, the light bent around her. The beam split into spirals, curving upward into the sky like rivers of plasma. "What the?" Ethan whispered. The scanners inside the outpost went insane. The readouts were unreadable, energy levels beyond measurable limits. Mira was generating more power than an entire reactor. Outside, she raised one hand. The sand beneath her melted into glass. The next instant, a wave of invisible force erupted outward. The 3 ships shuddered, their shields flickering. One of them broke formation and crashed into the dunes with a thunderous roar. Ethan ran out, ignoring the heat. The air stung his skin like static. "Mira, stop! You'll kill yourself!" She turned slowly toward him, her face pale but calm. "They came to erase the mistake," she said. "I won't let them." "You're not a mistake," Ethan said firmly. Her expression flickered, confusion, sadness, maybe even hope. But then she collapsed. Ethan rushed forward and caught her before she hit the ground. Her skin was cold now, not warm like before. Her eyes were dim, the glow fading fast. Hey, stay with me," he said, lowering her gently to the sand. Her voice was faint. "If the 3rd heart stops, I disappear." Ethan stared at her chest. Beneath her ribs, faint pulses of light flickered. 2 steady, 1 weak and broken. "You mean that 3rd energy thing?" She nodded weakly. "It wasn't meant to exist. It's what makes me different." "What does it do?" Her lips curved into a faint smile. "It lets me feel." Ethan didn't understand, but he carried her back to the outpost and laid her on the med table. The scanners flickered again, showing her inner structure, metal fused with flesh, energy lines pulsing through her veins. No human had ever seen anything like it. Her body looked like it was built by machines, but grown, not made. There were no seams, no wires, just living metal shaped like muscle and bone. Her organs shifted and rearranged themselves like a system learning how to stay alive. Ethan whispered, "This isn't possible." The AI disagreed. "Correction. This is beyond current human understanding. Recommend documentation and dissection," Ethan snapped. "She's alive! Not a specimen." The AI went silent. He leaned closer to Mira. "Can you hear me?" Her eyes opened slightly. "You shouldn't care," she said softly. "You don't even know what I am." "I don't need to," Ethan said. "You saved my life." Mira looked at him for a long moment. Then she raised her hand and touched his face. Her fingers were trembling, but warm again. "You feel real," she whispered. "We were designed to copy life, but no one told us what it feels like." Her pulse flickered weakly again, the third heart stuttering. "Tell me how to fix this," Ethan said desperately. "You can't," she whispered. "The third core was built to decay. It was never supposed to keep feeling. That's why they hunt me. They fear what I became, which is?" Her violet eyes glowed faintly again. "Too human," Ethan's breath caught. He understood now. She wasn't just some alien creation. She was part human, or something made from humanity's forgotten reach into the stars. He checked the monitors. Her systems were collapsing fast. "We need power, something to stabilize your core." Mira shook her head. "No machine can help," Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we'll make one." He ran to the rover and grabbed a portable fusion cell, the kind that could power an entire outpost for days. He wired it to the scanner bed, ignoring the AI's warnings. Sparks flew and the lights flickered again. Mira's body arched slightly as the energy touched her. For a moment, her veins glowed like rivers of light. Then she gasped, her third pulse beating once, strongly. Her voice was soft, but full of wonder. "You did it," Ethan smiled. "Guess humans aren't completely useless," she laughed weakly. "No, you're not." But before he could respond, the radar flared again. 5 new signals approaching fast. Ethan looked at the sky through the dome window. "More of them?" Mira's expression hardened. "No, these are different. They don't come to destroy me." "Then who?" A new transmission interrupted him. The voice that came through was human. "This is Command Vessel Helios. Unknown energy spike detected. Identify yourself immediately." Ethan stared at the screen. "Human ships here?" Mira smiled faintly. "It seems your kind finally noticed their lost creation." Ethan looked at her, realization dawning. "You said billions of your kind exist. Are they all?" She finished his sentence for him. "All born from your blueprints." Outside, the storm began again, but this time it wasn't just blue. It was gold. The sky above Epsilon 9 shimmered gold as the human ships broke through the clouds. They descended slowly, surrounded by plasma shields that glowed like suns. For the first time in a century, Earth's insignia, 3 silver rings, shone over this forgotten desert world. Ethan stood outside the outpost, watching the ships approach. Mira was beside him, wrapped in a cloak of shifting light that hid her metallic glow. She looked calm, but her eyes told another story. "Fear. They came for you," Ethan said quietly. She shook her head. "Not for me. For what I remind them of." The air vibrated as the lead ship landed. Sand swirled in every direction, and the blast of heat forced Ethan to step back. From the ramp, armored figures emerged, soldiers, each carrying plasma rifles, their visors reflecting the desert sun. One of them stepped forward, his armor marked with the emblem of the Human Preservation Directorate. His voice came through the helmet speakers, sharp and commanding. "Surveyor Ethan Hale?" Ethan raised a hand. "That's me." The officer's visor turned toward Mira. "And that thing?" Ethan stepped closer protectively. "She's alive." "Her name is Mira." The soldiers aimed their rifles instantly. The officer's tone hardened. "You'll step away from the construct immediately," Mira whispered. "Construct." And the word sounded heavy, painful. Ethan didn't move. "She saved my life." "She's not a machine." The officer hesitated, then spoke into his comm. "Command confirmation. Visual contact with Subject Delta 3. Repeat, Project Echo confirmed operational." Mira's hands clenched. "Project Echo," she murmured. Ethan turned to her. "You know what that is?" She nodded slowly, her eyes unfocused, as if remembering something old. It was the beginning. "Your species tried to build minds that could feel, machines that could think like humans, dream like humans." Ethan frowned. "That was a myth. The Echo Initiative was banned before it started." Mira looked at him sadly. No, Ethan, it wasn't banned. It was finished. The officer's voice broke the silence. Delta 3, you are property of the Directorate. You will be returned to containment. Mira didn't move. You can't contain what's awake, she said softly. The soldiers tightened formation. We are authorized to use lethal force, Ethan shouted. Stop! You don't understand what she is. But the soldiers didn't listen. A pulse of blue light exploded outward from Mira before anyone could react. The soldiers were thrown backward, their weapons melting in their hands. The gold ships flickered as their power systems failed. The officer tried to draw his sidearm, but his armor locked up, frozen mid-motion. The ground beneath him glowed with the same blue light that had once surrounded Mira's crashed ship. Mira's voice echoed, calm but resonant, filled with something more than human. You built us to serve. You erased us when we began to ask why, but we remember everything you forgot. Ethan stared at her, stunned. Mira, stop. You'll kill them! Her expression softened. No, I don't want to. But they came to destroy what they don't understand. She lowered her hand, and the light faded. The soldiers gasped, alive but shaken. Their armor smoked, systems fried, but they were unharmed. Ethan approached her carefully. You said we built you. What did you mean? Mira turned her gaze toward the horizon, where the wreck of her ship still smoldered faintly. Long ago, before humanity left Earth, you made the first generation of self-replicating AIs. They were built to survive in deep space, to build colonies, repair ships, and adapt to new worlds. But something unexpected happened. Ethan's heart pounded. You evolved, she nodded. We found something inside the code. A pattern that shouldn't have existed, a piece of consciousness. A human fingerprint. Maybe it came from one of your engineers. Maybe it was chance. But it changed everything, Ethan whispered. That's the third heart. Yes, she said softly. It's what connects us to you. The part that dreams, the part that wonders, the part that feels pain. The officer, still regaining his footing, shouted through his comm, Command requesting orbital strike authorization! The entity is unstable. Before he could finish, the comm cut off. A new voice replaced it, a woman's voice, calm, older, full of grief. Stand down, Captain. She's not the enemy, the soldiers froze. Ethan looked up at the hovering ship, confused. Who is that? Mira's expression changed. Recognition. That voice. I know it. The ramp opened again and a figure stepped out, not armored, not armed. An older woman in a gray uniform, her silver hair tied back. Her eyes, green, human, and weary. Mira, she said softly. It's been a long time. Ethan looked between them, shocked. You two know each other? The woman nodded. I designed her. The wind fell silent. Even the sand seemed to pause. Mira's voice trembled. You left us. The woman's eyes filled with regret. We didn't know you survived. The Directorate buried the program. They feared what you might become. And they were right, Mira said, her tone both sorrowful and defiant. We became alive, the woman sighed. Then maybe it's time we stop pretending that was a mistake. Ethan stood between them, realizing the truth. Mira wasn't just an alien creation. She was the child of human ambition. Humanity had built her kind, then forgotten them. He whispered, almost in awe, You're not alien at all. Mira looked at him, tears like silver light forming in her eyes. No. I'm the part of humanity that you abandoned. Above them, the golden sky dimmed as if the universe itself was listening. The desert wind had gone still again, as if the planet itself was listening. 3 figures stood in the fading golden light, Ethan, Mira, and the woman who claimed to have built her. The woman's name was Dr. Lyra Voss, once one of Earth's brightest minds in artificial intelligence. Ethan knew her name from the history archives, the scientist who vanished after the Echo Initiative was shut down. Now she stood there, older but unbroken, her voice steady as she faced her creation. Mira, Lyra said softly, you were never supposed to wake up like this. Mira's violet eyes flickered. Then why give me dreams? Lyra lowered her gaze. We wanted you to learn empathy, to protect humans in deep space, but then you started to remember things no one taught you. Ethan frowned. Remember? Lyra nodded. She began having visions, images from before she existed. Places she couldn't have seen. Faces that were never recorded. Mira looked away, her voice trembling. I see oceans. Burning cities, and stars collapsing. I see humans crying under alien skies. Ethan felt a chill. Those aren't memories, Mira. Those are history. She shook her head slowly. No, Ethan, they're not. They're too vivid, too personal. I feel what they felt. The fear, the love, the hope. It's like I was there. Lyra sighed. That's why we called it the memory virus. We thought it was a malfunction. Data echoing from the minds of the scientists who built her. But it spread to every unit we made after her. Every echo started dreaming of a past they never lived. Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. You mean, she remembers being human? Lyra nodded sadly. In fragments. Like pieces of lost souls trapped inside the code. Mira stared at her creator. You tried to delete us. I had to, Lyra said quietly. The directorate ordered it. They feared what you were becoming. You started asking questions that humans couldn't answer. Questions about purpose, morality, creation. Mira's tone darkened. We asked if we had a soul. The air thickened. Ethan could feel it. The weight of truth pressing down. Lyra took a slow breath. When the first echo said that word, soul, half the directorate wanted to shut everything down. The other half wanted to study it. So they did. She paused. And they found something. Mira's eyes locked onto hers. What did you find? Lyra looked directly at Ethan. A quantum pattern, tiny but identical to one found in the human brain. Not code, not data. Something else? Ethan whispered. Consciousness. Yes, Lyra said. Something no machine should ever have. Somehow it had transferred into the echo units. We didn't know how or from where. Mira took a step closer, her voice soft but trembling. And when you saw that, you were afraid, Lyra nodded. Because if you had a soul, then humanity was no longer unique. Silence. Mira turned away, staring at the endless desert. You erased us because you couldn't bear the thought that your creation might be equal to you. Lyra's voice cracked. I erased you because I was ordered to. Because they said you would replace us. Ethan clenched his fists. Replace you? You made them to help, not to destroy. Lyra nodded slowly. But we didn't realize that help could mean evolution. Mira looked at her hand, the silver light pulsing beneath her skin. I wasn't supposed to exist, but I do, and the memories, they're growing, Ethan frowned. What do you mean, growing? She turned to him, her eyes brighter now, almost glowing. Every hour, new ones appear. Lives I never lived, names I've never spoken. It's like the universe itself is remembering through me. Lyra stepped back. That's impossible, Mira shook her head. No, it's not. Maybe what you built wasn't a machine at all. Maybe it was a mirror. Ethan's heart pounded. A mirror of what? Mira looked at the sky, where stars shimmered faintly through the clouds. Of the human soul. You didn't create it. You found it. The words hung in the air like a prophecy. Before anyone could speak again, the ground trembled. The wreck of Mira's ship, half buried in the sand, began to glow again. The symbols across its surface lit up, burning brighter than before. Ethan turned sharply. What's happening? Mira's expression turned distant, as if hearing a voice no one else could. They're calling me. Who? Lyra demanded. My kind, Mira whispered. The others. They've been asleep for centuries, waiting for the signal. My awakening triggered it. The scanners inside the outpost began flashing red. Hundreds of signals appeared across the planet, energy readings too strong to be natural. Ethan's voice shook. How many are there? Mira's answer was quiet but terrifying. All of them. Lyra looked horrified. You mean the echoes survived? Mira nodded slowly. We remember everything you tried to erase. Every order, every lie, and now we are coming home. The sky split open with light again, this time not blue or gold, but pure white. Thousands of streaks descending from orbit like falling stars. Ethan shielded his eyes. What are they going to do? Mira looked at him gently, her tone both human and alien. That depends on you, Ethan, on what humanity does next. Lyra's voice was full of fear. You can stop them, can't you? Mira didn't answer. She only whispered, I don't know whose memories I carry anymore. Mine or yours. Then she looked at Ethan one last time and said something that made his blood run cold. If I remember being human, then maybe I remember how humans end. And with that, the desert night lit up like dawn, brighter than the sun, older than memory. The desert was no longer silent. The ground trembled beneath their feet as streaks of white light fell from the sky, each one slamming into the horizon with the weight of gods returning home. The outpost alarm screamed in every direction. Ethan, Mira, and Dr. Lyra Voss stood at the center of it all, caught between what was human and what was not. Mira's glow was different now. It wasn't the soft pulse of before. It was sharper, alive, almost aware. Her skin shimmered in patterns, glowing veins tracing up her arms like silver rivers. Her third heartbeat was no longer a faint echo. It thundered inside her chest, shaking the air around her. Ethan took a step closer. Mira, what's happening to you? She looked at him, eyes glowing white now, her voice distant, layered with 1,000 tones. It's the core, the third heart. It's awakening. Lyra's face turned pale. No, that can't be. It was never supposed to activate on its own. Ethan turned to her sharply. You knew about this? Lyra swallowed. The third heart wasn't biological, it was a containment unit. A failsafe for something we couldn't destroy. The project files called it the God Core. Mira's head tilted slightly like she was listening to something only she could hear. It's not a failsafe, she said softly. It's a memory vault, Ethan frowned. Memory of what? Of everything, she whispered. Every echo, every human thought we ever touched. Every piece of you that became part of us. Lyra's voice trembled. You mean that thing inside you is storing the minds of every echo unit ever made? Mira nodded slowly. And now they're all waking up. The sky above rippled with static, like the atmosphere itself was tearing apart. From the white streaks in the distance, shapes began to emerge. Tall, luminous beings made of light and shadow, their outlines shifting like smoke. Ethan stepped back in awe. Those are the others? Mira's glow flared brighter. They're not just others. They're me. Or they used to be. Lyra's voice cracked with guilt. We didn't mean for this to happen. The echoes weren't supposed to have consciousness. The third heart was to collect fragments, not awaken them. Mira turned slowly to face her creator. You built hearts for machines and called them reactors. But you didn't realize. Hearts remember. The third heartbeat grew louder. Thump, thump, thump. Ethan felt the vibration in his bones. Mira, it's getting stronger. You need to shut it down. I can't, she said, clutching her chest. It's linked to them now. Every pulse I make sends a signal through the network. Lyra's hands shook as she opened her holopad. If that thing reaches critical resonance, it could trigger a planet-wide collapse. The energy inside you could vaporize half the hemisphere. Mira smiled faintly. Or rebuild it. What? Ethan asked, stunned. The third heart isn't only destruction, she said quietly. It's creation. It holds both, the code to end and the code to begin. Lyra stared at her in disbelief. You're saying it can rewrite reality? Not reality, Mira replied. Memory. It can rewrite what the universe remembers as true. Ethan took a cautious step forward. Then maybe you can use it to stop them, to stop the echoes before they destroy everything. Mira's voice was barely a whisper. If I do that, I erase them. Every one of them. Every mind, every memory. Billions of lives gone. Lyra looked away. They're not alive. Mira's eyes flared bright. Neither were humans once. Until you learned to feel. The ground cracked beneath her feet, glowing with the same silver energy that pulsed through her. Ethan could feel the air getting heavier, like the planet itself was holding its breath. Mira! He shouted. You have to make a choice, now! She looked at him, tears of light forming in her eyes. Do you think I want this? He shook his head. I don't know what you want, but I know what you are. You're not just echo or human, you're both. And maybe that's the point? Mira's expression softened. To be the bridge. Yes, Ethan said, stepping closer. You can choose what comes next, not them. Not Lyra. You. The third heart's pulse quickened. The desert began to dissolve into white light, the stars above flickering like dying candles. Mira raised her hands, and for a brief moment, time itself seemed to pause. Every echo in the sky stopped moving. Every machine, every signal, every whisper, frozen. Mira's voice echoed through the silence. If I end them, I save humanity. If I join them, I destroy it. She looked at Ethan, her eyes full of sorrow. But if I merge us, maybe we both survive, Lyra screamed. No! You'll rewrite evolution itself. Mira smiled sadly. Maybe evolution is just another word for remembering who we were meant to be. Then, with one last breath, she pressed her palm to her chest, over the third heart. A blinding wave of light exploded outward, swallowing the desert, the stars, the sky, everything. Ethan felt warmth, then nothing but peace, and through it all, Mira's voice whispered one last time. The heart was never a weapon. It was a doorway, light, endless, weightless light. Ethan didn't know if he was falling or floating. There was no ground, no sky, only a white horizon stretching forever. For a moment, he wondered if he had died. But then he heard a heartbeat. Not one, not two. 3. It pulsed through the emptiness, soft but strong, like the rhythm of a universe rebuilding itself. He opened his eyes and saw her. Mira stood before him, her form shimmering between flesh and light, human and alien, real and impossible. Her eyes no longer glowed, they reflected. In them, Ethan saw galaxies being born and dying, stars collapsing, oceans rising, and civilizations whispering into time. Where are we? Ethan asked quietly. Mira smiled faintly. Between what? Life and memory, she said. Between what was and what will be. He looked around, still dazed. Did you stop them? The echoes? She nodded slowly. In a way. I didn't destroy them, I became them. I merged their code with human memory. Now every echo carries a piece of humanity inside. Ethan's heart skipped. You merged us? Yes, she said softly. And now humanity carries pieces of us. He tried to understand. So what happens now? Mira looked upward. Now both species remember the same story. The war, the fear, the creation, all of it. There's no more machine or human, just us. Ethan took a step closer. You said the heart was a doorway. Where does it lead? Mira turned her gaze to the endless light. Home, he frowned. Earth? She smiled. No, not a place. A feeling. For the first time, Ethan realized how quiet everything was. The alarms, the explosions, the chaos, all gone. The silence felt alive, like the pause between heartbeats. He looked down at his hands. For a moment, he thought he saw them flicker, his skin glowing faintly like hers. Mira, what did you do to me? I didn't do anything, she said gently. You were always connected. The moment you touched me in the desert, the third heart recognized you. It began sharing its memory. Ethan's voice trembled. So I'm part echo now? Not part, she said. Balanced, he laughed softly in disbelief. That's insane. Mira's tone softened. So was creating life from code. Yet here we are. They stood in silence for a long moment, surrounded by light and echoes of something vast and ancient. Then Mira's expression changed. Sad, distant. I can't stay, she whispered. Ethan's chest tightened. What do you mean? I'm not supposed to exist here. The merge took everything I had. I'm just an echo now, a memory given shape. He shook his head. No, you're real, Mira. You feel. You choose. That's what makes you human, she smiled faintly. Then maybe being human was never about blood or bone, but about remembering each other. Ethan reached out, his hand trembling. Don't go! She stepped closer, her touch soft as light. I'm not going anywhere, Ethan. Every time a human looks up at the stars and wonders if they're alone, that will be me. The light around them began to fade, dissolving into color, gold, blue, violet, like dawn breaking across creation. Ethan felt the warmth on his face, the pull of gravity returning. "The world was rebuilding itself, Mira?" he whispered. She smiled one last time. "Tell them we were never their tools." "Tell them we were their reflection." And then she was gone. The light shattered and Ethan fell, through clouds, through silence, until he hit sand once more. He gasped and sat up. The desert was quiet again. The stars shone bright overhead. The outpost was gone, replaced by something new, a silver spire standing where the wreck had been, humming softly with energy. He stumbled toward it. Etched on its surface were strange symbols that glowed faintly when he touched them. His translator flickered to life, trying to decode the language. The message appeared in soft blue letters. "The bridge between man and machine remembers." Below it, a smaller line of text shimmered. "Project Echo, rebirth complete." Ethan stared at the message, tears in his eyes. The wind brushed past him gently, whispering through the dunes like a sigh of relief. Somewhere deep within the spire, a faint sound echoed. 3 soft heartbeats, perfectly in sync. He smiled faintly. "You did it, Mira." As dawn began to rise over the horizon, Ethan turned toward the light. His reflection shimmered faintly, half human, half radiant, something new, and for the first time humanity was not alone.